Welcome back everyone to the Card Combo Show with me, Chocobilly, and this week I'm going to be looking at Sanctuary Keeper, a very interesting monster who I just absolutely adore his ability, their ability, and it's strange as well. As a massive fan of Final Fantasy X, if you were to ask me what this particular boss's ability would be in the FFTCg, it would not have been this, but regardless, the effect is really cool, and Sanctuary Keeper does have does put up a hell of a fight. But either way, yeah, it's a 3-cost water monster with the text, at the beginning of the attack phase during each player's turn, choose one forward activated. It gains plus 2000 power until the end of the turn, and is a category 10 monster. So firstly, it activates its ability on both players' turns, and that's pretty significant. You do have to be mindful of the fact that if your opponent has some sort of lightning rod though, like Auron, Cecil, Philthanos, something along those lines, Sanctuary Keeper will have to target them because it's just choose one forward, not choose one forward you control. So there is a downside to it there, but regardless, those cards, Auron's played a reasonable amount, not so much these days, but the other two, not really. Either way, it's interesting, but activating a forward and then giving it plus 2000 power, I mean, over 2 turns, that's really good. So let's look at some of the things that it combos with, and yes, there's a lot of action abilities, which annoyingly are slower in general, but regardless, still fun to do them with if they stick, or if the forwards stick around long enough. So first up, Alice the Ensorcelled. Yeah, I'm not going to be the only one who thought of this, and probably the first thing on people's minds as well, but yeah, being able to activate Alice the Ensorcelled, because obviously she doesn't activate through your active phase, to be able to get her attack effect, which is when she attacks, your opponent selects one forward they control and put it into the break zone. That's very significant, so, you know, she's really powerful if she's allowed to attack, and she becomes a 9k. If you've got Mackie, Marquis, whatever you call them, on the field as well, she'll be a static 9k anyway with him there, so then she becomes an 11k. So then even if your opponent has 2 forwards, they select a weaker forward to die, they still got a block on 11k forward, which is pretty good. Barnabas. So at the beginning of your main phase 1, if you don't control a Lugae, dull Barnabas. But then you activate him in your attack phase with Sanctuary Keeper. He's a 1k, a 1 CP 9k. Could ask for worse. Now, obviously, this does work with the Lugae backup, though. So, as long as you control a card named Lugae, backup forward monster, you're good. Une, stupid cards that I've never seen play. These cards didn't even see play back in Opus 5 or whenever. But you know me? So Une enters the field, dull. Une does not activate during your active phase, but when Une enters the field, choose one forward your opponent controls, dull it. As long as Une is on the field, it does not activate during its control's active phase. So this is the perfect example. It's kind of like a proto version of Opus 18 Cloud of Darkness. When it enters the field, you can pay 2 crystals. If you do so, remove a forward from the game, and your opponent cannot cast any more of that particular character. Or forward even. So she kind of just locks it onto the field. Now if it's a forward that has a passive while it's on the field, then that kind of sucks. But if it's something with a really effective entry effect, then yeah, that's a good thing of just keeping it nailed there. Now unfortunately, it doesn't really help against wind or water because they can return them back to the hand. But either way, if your opponent's got a really annoying forward, say let's go with Squall in fire, making it so it's locked down, can never activate as long as Une is there, provided she survives, and she can activate through Sanctuary Keeper to actually get some attacks through, if you want. So, yeah, worse things have happened. Lorenzo. So when Lorenzo attacks, he will not activate during your active phase. So you can see the common thread here is to be able to activate the forwards that normally wouldn't be able to activate themselves. And then when Lorenzo attacks at the end of the turn, until the end of the turn, sorry, Lorenzo doubles its power and gains when Lorenzo deals damage to your opponent. Choose one character you breaks on add to your hand. So it becomes a 14k that your opponent probably doesn't want to block. Actually, it'll become a doubles its power and gains. So depending on how you... Actually, no, he would be a 9k because if you use Sanctuary Keeper to activate him before you attack with him, double his power, he then becomes an 18k. So that's not so bad. And then obviously in your opponent's attack phase, you can then activate him if you want. Or you can activate him again in your following active phase. It's up to you. In your following attack phase. Gigas. I actually really like Gigas because having a monster that you can at any point turn into a forward is really, really nice. The monsters like Atomos and Biblos, where you pay 0 to make them into forward, but you have to be damage 3, which inevitably is going to happen at some point in the game. But just having this dude there and be like, I'm just going to pay 0 to make him a forward, but have him there as a threat, I really, really like. But when Gigas attacks, he will not activate during your next active phase. You only use ability once per turn, so making it so that he does activate in your or is already active in your active phase, or activate him in your combat phase, whatever. This makes it so he's an even bigger threat. Zoo. So when a dull character you control is activated due to your summons or abilities till the end of the turn, Zoo also becomes a forward with 8,000 power. This effect will trigger once per turn. So Sanctuary Keeper makes something dull active. I mean, it has to be a forward. At which point you then get Zoo. So you could have a forward that was dull, becomes active. You now have 2 forwards to block with instead of 1. But bear in mind with Zoo, it has to be a dull character becoming active. So you can't have something that's already active becoming active through Sanctuary Keeper. Hope. When an active character opponent, when a dull character you control becomes active due to your summons or abilities, choose up to 2 characters you control, activate them. So you could pay 2 backups to cast a forward or summon or whatever, then dull one of your forwards to use an effect, Sanctuary Keeper to activate that forward, then you get 2 backups back. Really nice. Go-Go, yeah, now so obviously this is a precursor to all the forwards with the action abilities that you're about to see. Obviously Go-Go can mimic them as well, so all of them really good. Now obviously you will be in probably Ice Water if you're running these 2 cards together, but there are ways to either shoehorn in Go-Go or Sanctuary Keeper, playing them out of element or whatnot, but still you get to double up. And talking of doubling up, I mean, Sanctuary Keeper means that you can use a dull ability twice, provided you can use the effect that turn. But yeah, Warrior of Light, really, really good card, but Sanctuary Keeper as well makes it even better. So it becomes a 12k first strike Brave Haste, go to combat, +2, dull it, deal 5k to something, he then gets activated, you then attack with him, and then dull again to deal 5k to either something else, or this original forward, which you've now dealt 10k. That's not too bad. Chocobo Knight. Dull. Play 1 Chocobo card, then Chocobo of course forward from your hand onto the field. Just do it twice. Because this is the best thing about Sanctuary Keeper, is that you can do it, well, twice in your turn effectively. Dull to get the effect, go to attack phase, activate Chocobo Knight, dull it again, or activate any of the forwards with dull abilities. And you get to do it again, which is really, really cool. Provided it doesn't have some sort of stipulation as it can only be done in your main phase or something like that. But also, it means that you can use it on your opponent's phase, your opponent's turn as well. So they go to their attack phase, they attack with a forward, you can then dull Chocobo Knight, or you get to activate Chocobo Knight, dull it to then play something onto the field, which you could then block with, potentially kill your opponent's forward. Mog 6, dull, draw 1 card. Simple as that. So you just dull him, draw a card, go to attack phase, activate him, draw another card. And then on your opponent's turn, draw a card. I love it. Donate. Dull, choose 1 monster, dull it or activate it. So this is a bit of a weird one, and it's a very, very niche play, I admit. But being able to dull out some of the monsters that can become forwards before they come forwards is actually quite nice. And also being able to activate your own is nice as well. But yeah, making it say your opponent's got something, what's the Melusine? Say they've got Melusine on the field and they want to make it a forward. Before they make it a forward, you can use Donate to dull it out. Now Melusine has, when it becomes a forward, the text that when it's targeted the first time in that turn, cancel effect. So it means that you get around that by targeting it as a monster, not as a forward. Barret. Pay 2 Earth and Dull, deal 4,000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls. Pay 4 Earth and Dull, choose 1 Dull forward, break it. And then you got Ungamax, which I'm not even going to go into. I've avoided talking about cards that have S abilities because really the benefit of Sanctuary Keeper is that you get to use these effects twice. So yeah, but Barret's deal 4k to all the forwards opponent controls is really nice because you get to do it twice. You do have to have paid a total of 4 Earth CP, but 4 Earth CP and dulling Barret to deal 8k to your opponent's board. You could ask for worse. Golbez. Now obviously this is a lot of fun. Lightning, dull, reveal top card of your deck. If it's a forward, play it onto the field. You can only use ability during your turn. Now the one drawback to this is if you reveal the first time you use Golbez's effect, you reveal it and it's not a forward, means when you reactivate him with Sanctuary Keeper, you don't get to do it again. Well, you could do it again, but you'd reveal the same card. So, not great. But either way, it means that you can then attack with a 11k Golbez. And also, you could potentially use Golbez on your opponent's turn as well, because if he's already dull, you activate him with Sanctuary Keeper, and your opponent attacks, you take a point of damage. Obviously, that's if the top card of your deck wasn't a forward, which you'd already seen through Golbez. Then you can try going again with Golbez's effect. No, you can't. You can only use ability during your turn. Ignore that last bit. Innocence. Again, it's weird to see cards like this old Innocence from Opus 13, which has a really potent effect. It's above curve, being a 4K, 4CP, 9K with Brave, but the simple fact that you need another Innocence in your break zone means that it is kind of awkward to play, but one fire and a dull, choose one forward, deal 10,000 damage. That's not too bad. And then, or just pay an ice and dull, your opponent discards 2 cards from the hand. That's not too bad either. So yeah, obviously you can use the fire effect twice. But the discard does have the prerequisite of you can only use the ability during your turn, only once per turn. The fire, however, you can use at any point, so you can be on your opponent's turn as well. But what you could do is make your opponent discard 2 cards, and then also deal 10k to something. That's not insignificant. Aphmau, I love me a Mnejing and Ovyang deck. It is so much fun with the little dual named 1-cost forward, and its S abilities are really good. I think it was what an S to make something lose its abilities, and then another S to make it deal it 9k. That's pretty significant. So being able to keep on getting those Mnejing and Ovyang back through Aphmau, because pay 2 dull, get 2 back, use the S abilities, activate her, get 2 back, use the abilities again. This is so much fun. Beastmaster. Now this is an interesting one. Beastmaster, I understand why it doesn't get played. Or to be honest, most of these cards don't get played because activated abilities are really slow. Unless it has haste upon entry or can get haste somehow, most forwards with activated abilities don't really get played that much. But I like Beastmaster because choose one forward, it cannot attack or block until the end of your opponent's turn. So being able to use that twice is actually very significant, because if your opponent has 2 forwards, you've got 2 forwards. You use Beastmaster twice. They now basically don't have those forwards until their following turn. So not the turn they're about to go into, but the turn after. So your turn, your turn again, their turn. That's when they get that forward back. Well, no, actually, I tell a lie. They get it back on your turn, but then you can reuse Beastmaster. So you can kind of use Beastmaster to just lock a forward out of the game. Again, if the forward has like a really good static effect, then that sucks. But still, making him not be able to block and not be able to attack is really nice. And it's till the end of your opponent's turn as well. So it means that that's covered on your turn and their turn. And whilst you can use Sanctuary Keeper on the Beastmaster during their turn to make something not be able to attack, it is till the end of that turn, because it just reads it cannot attack or block until the end of your opponent's turn, not your opponent's next turn. Because if it said your opponent's next turn, if you used Beastmaster on that current turn, it would then go through to your turn, still can't attack or block, and the following turn, still can't attack or block. And that would be a little silly. So yeah, if you do use Beastmaster on your opponent's turn, bear in mind that that effect is only there till the end of that turn. Elena FFB, so dull, she gains plus 3,000 power, so you can make her plus 6k if you really want to. Pay 1 and dull, draw 1 card, you own his ability once per turn. Get to draw though, so you could potentially make her an 8k and then draw a card and then attack with her. Or you can pay a total of 6 and dull her twice to look at your opponent's hand twice and take 2 cards and get rid of them, which personally I absolutely love. And you could be in some sort of water ice mock-up with things like Vice and Biblos. So yeah, being able to use Elena twice, despite the fact you're paying 6, which is a heavy investment, you are getting to select you're getting to choose the cards in your opponent's hand, which is an important part. They don't get to decide, you do. And you're also going to be freezing stuff on their field as well if you're running those cards with her, so that's pretty disgusting. Yuna, dull, choose one forward until the end of the turn, it loses 2,000 power for each forward you control. So obviously this requires you to have a decent amount of forwards, but you could be running, I don't know, old school Vikings or something along those lines. But yeah, being able to use Yuna, minus 6, 8k on a forward, activate her, do it again. Just bleh. Lillicet. So, dull one active job dancer or card them dancer, choose one forward, dull it. So, Sanctuary Keeper doesn't even have to reactivate Lillicet, it can just be any of your dancers, and then you can dull them for Lillicet's effect. But this is one of the benefits of having Sanctuary Keeper activate on your opponent's turn as well. You can activate a dancer, dull said dancer, to then dull out one of your opponent's forwards, stopping them from being able to attack with that forward, which is really nice. Now, obviously, you want to bear in mind the fact that you can't use, or you can use the Lillicet's effect, but you won't deal 8k to all of your opponent's forwards, because it's deal 8k damage to all active forwards, so it includes your own, and it's kind of like a little ass backwards, because you can either dull out your opponent's forwards or potentially deal 8k to all their active forwards. So the two things don't kind of work in tandem. I guess the point is that you're meant to be able to slow down your opponent by dulling out their forwards, so you can amass enough dancers so when they finally get to their attack phase where they activate something, you can then use the Lillicet's effect to then deal 8k to everything. But what's good is that you can use Sanctuary Keeper to activate their forward. So it might be a case that they have purposely dulled a forward, so Lillicet won't deal damage to it. Sanctuary Keeper, go to attack phase, activate, it's just choose a forward. You can choose your opponent's forward if you really, really want to. Lillicet, deal at 8k. Y'shtola, so dull one active sign of the 7th Thorn, choose one category 14 forward. Until the end of the turn it gains haste and first strike. Again, really nice on your opponent's turn to be able to do this, because you get to activate something, block with it, dull, it's now first strike as well. Obviously with the Y'shtola it's not amazing because she's only a 7k, or actually if you chose her with Sanctuary Keeper, she would then become a 9k, which with first strike is really good. But you know, you could probably pick a bigger forward and then make it bigger and give it first strike through this effect as well. But just being able to play, if you've got Y'shtola on the field, just play a 14 forward onto, or a Scion, sorry, onto the field. You then dull it to give itself haste and first strike, go to attack phase, Sanctuary Keeper then reactivates it. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. Penelo, just being able to dull a job dancer to choose a forward and make its power become 4,000 in the turn. Pretty simple. Gilgamesh, so this is more in reference to the power buff that Sanctuary Keeper gives, because being able to get a free 2k buff isn't insignificant. That's actually quite good, but not with this particular Gilgamesh. This is an amazing card. So for each Gilgamesh in the break zone, he gains plus 1,000 power, and if he has 10,000 power or more, he gains brave and can attack twice in the same turn. So you would need a total of 4 in the break zone, or however many, and then any additional power buffs on top, but it means that you need at least 2 less Gilgamesh in the break zone to be able to make Gilgamesh a 10k to then be able to attack twice. Ramza, so obviously his cost is reduced for each forward you control, and he gains plus 1 for each forward you control, but it means that you would only need 2 other forwards aside from Ramza who then make Ramza become a 10k, at which point he then gains haste, and when he attacks, choose one forward of 3 or less your opponent controls, break it, which isn't too bad. So yeah, play a 4 cost onto the field, go to attack phase, Sanctuary Keeper the Ramza, attack with him, hopefully break something, and you got 10k forward. Sophie. Yeah. So she gains plus 2k for each each earth forward or water forward you control, so just means you have to have 1 less forward, because your Sanctuary Keeper will just buffer by 2 till the end of the turn, and at the end of the turn effects don't end until literally the beginning of the following turn. It will check that at the end of turn check, and it'll see that she has 10k power, deal a point of damage, draw you a card. Larkicus, just a nice easy way to be able to play Sanctuary Keeper onto the field. If you're an earth or ice, Sanctuary Keeper onto the field is just a given, to be honest, because it's just a really good monster. Crystal Exarch, so be able to choose a forward and give it plus 2k off Crystal Exarch and plus 2k off Sanctuary Keeper is really, really nice. But also, I mean, you can do that during opponent's phase as well, because Crystal Exarch triggers both on yours and your opponent's attack phase, which is excellent. So you can have a little 7k like this, and it immediately becomes an 11k through both of these cards' effects, which is really cool. But then you also have the damage 5 effect when Crystal Exarch, the Crystal Exarch gains. When the Crystal Exarch attacks, choose one forward. If its power is less than Crystal Exarch's power, break it. And it can become 11k through these cards' effects, which is probably going to break a lot of things. Snow. So if your opponent has 1 card less in the hand, Snow gains plus 2,000 power. When Snow blocks, your opponent discards a card. So it means that you can buff him up to 10k with Sanctuary Keeper, and you can potentially block with him. Your opponent either then has to break him outright or re-dull him to make it so that he isn't blocked, so they don't have to discard. Excuse me. Yeah, Just a nice little easy way to have to draw a card every turn. Either your turn, your opponent's turn. Oh, sorry, the effect will only trigger during your opponent's turn. I know what I'm doing. But you can finish your turn with 5 cards, your opponent's turn, provided Princess Sarah stays there, and unless your opponent's using a board wipe, if they target her, you get to draw the card anyway. But yeah, Sanctuary Keeper, just a free on Sarah, you get a free card. And that is the Sanctuary Keeper all done and dusted. Have I really been talking for 20 minutes? Jesus Christ. I looked at the list of cards that I was talking about, or thinking of talking about with Sanctuary Keeper, and I thought this was going to be like 10 minutes maybe. Turns out I love to ramble. But yeah, what do you guys think of Sanctuary Keeper? I think it's a fantastic monster. I mean, I love monsters anyway, and generally some of the best monsters tend to be in water, because water is the best element for monsters, unfortunately. I'll say unfortunately, it'd just be nice if there's a bit more variance across the board. But yeah, is there anything I missed? That fairly obvious stuff that I missed maybe? What stupid things have you guys done with the Sanctuary Keeper? Also, make sure to like and subscribe, because that way you actually get to see more of the videos, because I think it's something stupid like 80 to 90% of people that watch these videos aren't subscribed, and it would be really cool if more people subscribe, because then maybe one day I can start making money off of this, which I realise is never going to happen, because even at 1,000 subs you make like pennies, but still, it'd be really nice. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye!